The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
You make me sick, you big baby!
She's not gonna be safe with the prince, and she's not gonna be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Oh, good for you! And how was it?
I gotta stop here. This is gonna take forever.
Don't say it! You are right! Ah!
Relax, be cool. Cause if you don't, you'll act like a fool. So be cool. It's the only rule.
Hey everybody, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Dead Inside, Dan. Let's talk this friggin' thing. It's hard to point to a more controversial movie than Snow White, whose controversies lasted so consistently long. The original 1937 film is one of the most important films in history. The US was feeling the effects of the Great Depression, and Walt Disney's company was facing the very real reality that it would go out of business. It took a huge risk in creating the first full-length animated film. It was a gargantuan hit, and people loved it. Almost 100 years later, the film is still revered by multiple generations of those who grew up watching it. I am one of those individuals. I loved it when I was a kid, I recently rewatched it as a mid-30s adult, and I still love it. Sure, as a frequent moviegoer, I see some of its shortcomings from a modern lens and acknowledge that it very much could benefit from a remake. But I will never say that the original is a subpar product, no. A slice of cinematic history, not a product. But then this bitch came along.
It's Snow White herself! Hello!
In the spirit of those who may not be in the know, let's catch you up. Rachel Zegler may not have been ground zero for the remake's controversy. That honored distinction goes straight to none other than Peter Dinklage being a whiny dude about the titular Seven Dwarfs being an insulting cliche, only for the dwarf community to snap back at him for costing the jobs of 7 little people when Disney decided to cast a slew of diverse individuals who weren't dwarves.
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. You're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's for dwarfs.
There are actors, dwarf actors, that dream to be in a major motion picture such as this Disney remake. And now it's taken away. And it's taken away because of quote unquote progression and all that. And it's not right.
One token little person. Thank you. It really sucks when they're the ones screaming the loudest about inclusion and then they pull this stunt. But I think you kind of missed your mark. I won't be seeing this movie.
Few could have imagined just how irrelevant, how quickly Dinklage would get. That's when Zegler came into the picture. For the next couple of years, true fans of the original film would send an asteroid of hate toward her that would make the one that killed the dinosaurs feel like a damned pebble. From her lack of respect for the original film,
I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because, we cast a guy in the movie.
to her rude comments about Andrew Burnap, who could be cut entirely from the film,
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
to her backtracking on her comments in the most fake-ass interview that not a single person buys,
The cartoon's so beloved. It's like a monumental moment in film history.
being barred from interviewing anymore for a long time, only to have a ridiculed appearance at the Oscars alongside co-star and real-life Wonder Woman Gal Gadot.
I have to admit though, one of the most unintentionally hilarious moments of the night was watching Rachel Zegler waddle out on stage with Gal Gadot to present an award, looking like a small petulant child reluctantly going clothes shopping with her mum. Honestly, putting these two together in public is like parking a Lamborghini next to a Ford Escort, and you could practically feel the hostility crackling in the air around them.
To entire premieres being cancelled in fear of Zegler saying anything at this point. I mean, her mouth spouts so much bullshit that I think the entirety of Bikini Bottom owes SpongeBob an apology. If you can believe it, there's still so much that I've left out. That's how bad Zegler's been. I doubt even the smarter choice of letting Gal take the burden of doing a majority of the marketing won't be enough to save face. Oh, me now? Okay, great. Look, I'm not a fan of these remakes at all, live action or otherwise. There's only a handful of ones that are actually good. I thought Cinderella was good. Admittedly, it's only because I like Lily James. I like Maleficent enough, though, again, admittedly, I just really like Angelina Jolie. And I thought she was a dead ringer for the role. Great choice. But not so much the sequel, Mistress of Evil. Really forgettable. And I bet you just remembered it existed too. Personally, I think that the undisputed best one is Pete's Dragon, the one that nobody saw. But with only 3 movies out of Disney's entire catalog of live action or live action adjacent remakes, and one of them I really had to convince myself was even worth mentioning, that is not a great ratio. So if you're looking at me and you're gonna be that person who's like, well, you've obviously already decided that you hate the movie, why are you gonna go see it? Because I need to know if I'm right. I've written off movies before that I ended up liking. Paddington, Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, so maybe this will be one of those movies. I fucking doubt it, but anything's possible. And also a big shout out to the AMC bar staff. You guys are the VIPs of my experience watching this movie. I could not have gotten through it without ya. Anyway, this is my honest opinion of Snow White. Despite her upbringing from her kindly royal parents, Princess Snow White, played by Rachel Zegler, finds herself little more than a common servant in the castle, which is now ruled by her stepmother, the evil queen, played by Gal Gadot, who rules the kingdom with an iron fist. After freeing a dashing thief named Jonathan, played by Andrew Burnap, from a grisly fate, the queen plots to have her killed by a huntsman. Though the man is unable to kill Snow, she runs into the forest and meets 7 kindly dwarfs who shelter her. But soon she ventures out to find some local bandits who might know the truth about what happened to her late father. Well, I fully admit, that was not as bad as I was expecting it to be. It is not the worst that God Emperor Disney has made recently. Dumbo, Alice Through the Looking Glass, and Lion King are still the Jack, King, and Queen of the worst of these live-action remakes or live-action adjacent. But does that make this one good? Fuck no, this is a hot mess! It may not be the worst, but holy shit, it's trying to be! It's like, it has such an identity crisis. It's trying to be Snow White and Tangled, and failing at both. It may surprise you that the first 10-ish minutes are actually not that bad. It shows Snow as a child being raised by her loving parents, teaching her to be a kind ruler to her people. The song that's being sung is absolutely forgettable, as most of the original songs just feel like modern Disney songs, but hey, it explores what her parents were like. Cool. Mom dies from Disney-itis, that same life-threatening disease that kills most of the Disney parents. Dad decides to mourn, but ditches that bitch for Gal Gadot and forgets all about his other chick. If you were about to marry Gal, you say yes to that marriage. Any one of you would, don't you friggin' lie! But then Daddy Dearest is warned by the Queen that a threat is on its way to them, and he sets out to confront it, only to never return, leaving the Queen the sole ruler of the land. Okay, the prologue is paced well, expanding on Snow's and the Queen's respective histories. Got it. This is kind of what I would want in a remake. The music is there, but things aren't going that poorly. But just as quickly as I got my hopes up, they were crushed. The Queen goes mad with power, practically hoarding the riches of the kingdom for herself and locking Snow White within the castle with a new haircut and turning her into a servant. Here comes the first problem. Snow meets petty thief Jonathan. He steals some potatoes, gets caught, and sentenced by the Queen to be tied to the palace gate to freeze to death. Snow tries to appeal to the Queen's better nature. How? Why? put a pin in this question. I'll come back to it in a second. Later, when the huntsman is about to try to kill Snow, she asks him why. Bitch, what do you mean why? Would it not make sense that the queen put the hit on your heart? How is this a question? Time to answer that. She's supposed to be naive, but it doesn't fit her character. In the original, when the huntsman tries to kill Snow and then she runs into the forest, culminating in a dramatic collapse and cry, we know why. Her entire life was uprooted. The only family she had left just tried to have her murdered and has essentially lost her home in the process. Here's the weakness of the original. We don't know the full scope of their relationship with each other. Snow and the Queen don't ever interact with each other until she becomes the hag, and Snow never knows it. A remake would benefit from exploring their relationship. Maybe the Queen was super manipulative, convincing her that she is a benevolent queen. Like, maybe dressing her in rags rather than a royal dress would make her more relatable to the commoners. And Snow goes with it because she's young and naive. That she works around the castle because she needs to learn how to do the work of a commoner in order to know what it feels like to be one of them. See what I'm doing here? Mixing lies with truth, the best form of manipulation. That would feed into Snow's naivety and believing that her relationship with her stepmother was a positive, even a loving one. So when the assassination is attempted, we understand the full spectrum of why it's such a shock to the system. But here, no, the movie is pretending that she's naive, but she isn't really. This reality is highlighted further when she escapes into the aforementioned woods. The forest just has tree monsters. For no reason. Once again, in the original, the forest is very clearly psychological. The huntsman was a monster. She realized how monstrous the queen is. So now she's running through this forest seeing only monsters. But those monster trees aren't real. Those log alligators, aren't real. But here, it's not clear if the monsters she encounters are real or not. And when it's over, she doesn't cry because of her uprooted life. She doesn't cry at all. How am I supposed to feel anything for her if she doesn't feel much of anything herself? And then we're just bringing her to the dwarf's home. Just like that. There's no scene where she explains to the forest animals how scared she is and how lost she is, asking for help in the process. They just part the trees and show her the dang house. Here's where I started to really hate Snow though. She goes into the house and just sleeps. I'm sorry, am I watching a Snow White movie? Or am I just watching a Rachel Zegler documentary of her breaking into a stranger's home and helping herself to a nice nap? Say it again and again, kids. In the original, Snow was at least considerate enough to knock. She peers into the house to see if anyone's home. She went through a two-step process before going in. And before helping herself to sleep, she explored the home, and as a gift to the owners of the home, she would clean up for them. She saw work to do, did it, then rested after. But nope, this one just heads upstairs and crashes. Our princess, folks.
She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Yeah, so far, your Snow White isn't much better than the queen herself. Speaking of the dwarves, oh dear lord, no, the apocalypse is nigh. Yeah, the dwarves look awful. We're good, aliens. Humanity is finished. Go for it and blow us up. Their designs never improved. I've seen PlayStation 2 graphics that look better than this. Their intro scene is super awkward. We see them arrive at the mine, pick at the ground for a minute or two, and then leave with the sun seemingly in the same place as we left it, giving the impression that they worked for a few minutes and that's it. Lazy oafs. Oh, and their hands glow with a magical mark, which allows them to find the gems and jewels they shovel and pick for. Okay. It never comes back into the movie. What a pointless detail. So then the dwarfs come home and find Snow. They freak out, thinking she's a monster, but then reach an understanding. Small writing issue. Snow White asks them what they're doing out in the woods. Doc says it's their job to mine the mines. Job? Who employed you? Where are the gems going and for what purpose? Hey, in the original it wasn't clear why the dwarfs were mining the mines either, but you never got the impression it was a job. Could have literally just been a hobby. This is why I argued that a remake should make the gems they mine serve a purpose, like they're the queen's weakness against her dark magic or something. But fine, in the grand scheme of things, awkward writing is hardly the worst of this movie's problems. Now we get to the queen's realization that the huntsman lied about killing Snow. Honestly, I don't hate this scene. Apart from the queen opening the box intended for Snow's heart and it's revealed to be an apple. In the original, it was a pig's heart. It genuinely fooled the queen, which is why she argues with the magic mirror over Snow's fate. But here, the queen is portrayed as stupid. She knew the huntsman had his reservations toward killing the girl. So immediately, the queen would want to check his work by seeing the heart in the box. This implies that she didn't and took his word for it for no reason. And what happened with the huntsman after that? Did he just go back home and hope for the best? Did he not try to leave the kingdom himself? Because the queen found him pretty quick. That apple wasn't gonna fool her forever. Dumb as all that is, here's why I don't have all the problems in the world with this scene. Gal. The queen has a villain song. No, it's not very memorable, but Gal is delivering the most hammy of performances. She mugs and is so self-absorbed. That's when it hit me. If this Snow White was more of an off-brand version, like Snow White, A Tale of Terror, Snow White and the Huntsman, Mirror Mirror, even Once Upon a Time, these aren't meant to have any true relation to the 37 film. They're different interpretations altogether, and many of us have accepted that and enjoy them for what they are, for the most part. If that's what this was, then I think it would have had a better chance. Gal Gadot is not a good choice for this evil queen, but she might make a half-decent Mother Gothel. At the very least, if the queen was not intended to be at all like the original, then Gal would be fine. But like everything in this picture, the writing doesn't know what to do with its characters. The queen is trying to be the imposing, menacing original, but also giving her random spats of goofiness makes it distorted. It doesn't make sense for her character. Speaking of characters that don't work, we come back to Snow and the Dwarfs the next morning, and there's a lot going on here. Apparently, Dopey gets a character arc, and we finally get the cleaning song and dance number. First, Dopey. The dwarfs make fun of him in a way that's pretty unlikable. Sure, the guys gave each other crap in the original, but you got the impression that it was in good nature, and they were just as likely to laugh at themselves as well. But here, they're just picking on the guy. And while I do appreciate that Dopey isn't thirsty for Snow White, who's supposed to be 14 years old, this Dopey is learning to be brave enough to speak up for himself. Okay? Personally, I thought Grumpy's arc was fine. He was the one who cared the least about Snow and took a lot of work to make him like her and be the most worried when he realized that Snow was in danger. Of course, take away the best character arc in the OG from the only little person in the dwarf voice cast who has played one of the Seven Dwarfs before. How inclusive of God Emperor Disney. Fucking hypocrites. But equally disturbing is the cleanup song and dance. I've already complained about how Snow didn't clean up before sleeping in the beds, but now that it's here, it only exacerbates how poorly conceived she is. She practically commands the dwarves to clean their own home. That's not your place, you skank! Oh, but it gets worse. She doesn't help clean. Once again, I think Zegler was filmed during a narcissism kick and it just happened to get spliced into this movie. This doesn't even work for the character being set up. Snow White is clearly shown to help the commoners, to do things for them as a kid. As an adult, she should be well versed in knowing how to clean herself, but she only serves as their director. So when she's singing, "and cheerfully together we can tidy up the place," what the hell? What do you mean, we? You didn't do anything!
She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Is this an origin story for an evil Snow White? Because if it is, I'm actually very excited for a sequel. Snow then decides to leave the dwarfs to seek out the bandits who apparently fight in the name of the one true king and ask them if they know what happened to her father. This effectively becomes an entirely different movie. Tangled, to be precise. The royal guards are hunting her and Jonathan returns to the story. Guess those scenes weren't cut at all, eh, Zegler? I swear, Jonathan is basically Flynn Rider, and doing a fair job at it, actually. But the scene where they reunite is dragged on. All Snow would have to do is ask, where's the Southern Kingdom, where there's rumors that her father is held prisoner there. And Jonathan could point in the direction. Scene over. But their boring-ass banter lasts way too long. However, I do want to point out something. For all of Zegler's boasting that this is Snow's story about rising up to be the leader that she wants to be, that's really not what the writing suggests. When she has hope that her father is still alive, she seeks the truth in hopes that he might return and dethrone the queen. Him, not Snow herself, the king. She's hoping that a man will solve the problem. Ain't that just a kick in the vag? But the moment we've all been waiting for, the 7 bandits. Oh yes, they are actual characters. I should go on record to clear the air. People working on this film have said that the bandits were never intended to be the dwarfs. But the Peter Dinklage debacle happened, Disney vowed to change things up, and then this image leaked online, setting the internet ablaze. I don't know how many people believe that or how truthful it is, but it's mighty suspicious that there's 7 bandits. Just saying, y'all were teeing yourselves up for controversy from the get-go. In the end, it doesn't matter, because these are utterly forgettable characters. Except for the one token little person. Let's be real here, this is probably just as insulting if they took out the bandits altogether. Because it clearly shows that Disney was fully capable of casting dwarf actors in the titular dwarf characters, but simply chose not to. Obviously, the design choice for the dwarfs was meant, or rather repurposed, to distinguish the mythical dwarf creatures from humans with dwarfism. But pointed ears might have solved that issue right quick. But hey, how long has it been since the House of Rat used their thinking brains? The bandits attempt to protect Snow from her pursuers, but then it becomes a full-on battle scene where Snow summons her animal friends to non-violently disperse the battle. Because of course, the bandits can't do it themselves. The leader of the guard attempts to shoot Snow in the back, but then Jonathan decides to take the arrow to save her life. God damn it, bro. So many problems could have been solved! Well, Snow takes our stand-in Prince Charming back to the dwarfs in hopes to save this dude's life. Cue little joke that just because Doc is his name, he's not a medical practitioner. Doesn't stop him from saving Jonathan's life, though. Gotta love the power of lazy-ass writing. This triggers the dancing party scene, with the dwarfs and bandits dancing together, which is never not awkward to watch. Snow and Jonathan sing a love song about their feelings for each other, goes in one ear and out the other, like all these songs. But then they all disperse when they hear the guards and Johnny Guitar promises to see her again in 2 days. And then promptly gets his ass captured. Way to go, Diet Flynn! And sentenced to the dungeon alongside the huntsman. Oh, sure. Steals some potatoes, he gets tied to the castle gate to freeze to death, but not only survive his punishment, but to protect Snow White, her main reason for being a bitch these last couple of days. Please, have a cushy-ish place to rest your scrawny ass, and have a chatting buddy. The life of luxury for a prisoner, eh? Back to Snow, the dwarfs leave for the mines and leave her alone. This is obviously where the queen turns into the hag, which is so underwhelming. Remember how dramatic her transformation was? How so cool it was? Yeah, not what happens here. She barely has a lair where she concocts her witchy brew. It's just in some secret room. A twitch or two, and she's the hag. I give credit, that is a metric ton of makeup on Gal, where it would have been too easy to make her CG scary like the dwarfs. It might have worked better in that case, actually. The point is, she looks good, but she shows up, gives Snow the famous poisoned apple, which is given no dramatic flair for its creation. And of course, Snow eats it, with the promise that it will protect her from harm as she goes off searching for her probably not really alive father. However, instead of it being fast acting like in the OG, it's much slower, and gives the hag just enough time to tell Snow that she had her father killed. And then Snow pushes up daisies. Okay, when? Hubby Dearest rode off into the horizon and never came back. When did she kill him? How did she kill him? A great many questions that kind of need answering for this horseshit revelation to have any impact. Anything? Nothing? Okay, good to know that writers be out here just doing whatever they want. Must be nice to not have to create coherent stories with sensible plots. Next thing you know, we'll be making cartoons that just hold on a bucket of mayonnaise for an entire 10 minutes. You're the geniuses, after all.
Wacky Dahlia! Wacky Dahlia!
Delhi scores again. Powerful Warhovian tribute. Fans go nuts.
Enjoy your chariot. Back to the dungeon. With the power of brotherhood, Johnny Boy and the Huntsman manage to pull the bolts off of the wall holding Jonathan chained and escapes. The dwarfs have found Snow's semi-dead body by this point and are all weepy that she's no longer with us. But then Jonathan finds them and yeah, you can guess the rest. Oh, and Dopey talks. Internet articles were raving that Dopey had the best character arc. But from learning how to whistle an hour ago to this moment, he barely had a presence. I have no idea what these assholes are talking about. But now we need our cliched girl boss moment. Yes, girl bosses are a cliche now. Sorry, ladies, but search your feelings. You know it to be true. She goes back to her kingdom to confront the queen. So, no, there is no climactic chase between the hag and the dwarfs, culminating in her fall to her death on the mountain. Fair enough. I felt like her original death was rushed and cheap anyway. But does that mean this improves it? Kinda, sorta, probably not to most. Snow shows up to be an inspiration to the people of the kingdom, but essentially everyone, including the royal guards that are loyal to the queen, simply refuse to kill Snow, and the queen runs off to complain to her magic mirror. And I don't know, I guess the power of realizing that not being the purest of heart as opposed to the smokiest show in the world is enough to make her dust off like a Thanos snap. I don't know. I dare you to make sense of it. But there you go. Snow's the queen now and all's right in the world. By the way, I'm not at all joking about this being a Snow White villain origin story because it literally ends with everyone in the kingdom dressed in white. Yes, fall in line and conform to my name, you peasants. No, I'm convinced the kingdom traded a tyrant for a narcissist. I'd watch a sequel about an evil Rachel Zegler. It'd make more sense than the rest of this movie. It's not like her Snow White has been portrayed as likable as her 37 counterpart. Quite the downgrade, actually. There are so many story beats that miss the point of why they were even there in the original film in the first place. And the nightmare-fueled dwarfs, Jesus Christ, it might have been better to just cut them out of the movie entirely, own up to the diverse bandits, and cut the runtime by 15-20 minutes so everyone can go home earlier. But is it beyond redemption? I don't think so. There are a couple of things that I like. I do like the relationship between Snow and the Queen being fleshed out a bit more. Kinda wish that it was in a better movie though. And admittedly, I kinda like the relationship between Snow and Jonathan, even though it doesn't feel like it belongs in a Snow White movie, maybe a Tangled movie, but not Snow White. But yeah, viewer experience may vary on that one. And of course, Gal Gadot herself, I can't hate on the girl. I just can't. yes, she is absolutely miscast as the evil queen. Especially if you're going for the original 37 feel and tone. It should have just leaned into her real-life goofy nature, and it might have worked better. So as you can see, there are some positives, but not nearly enough to save it, and certainly not enough for me to recommend it. It's not a good movie, in any way, shape, or form. It may not be the worst of the worst, but not from a lack of trying. It's not Dumbo bad, it's not Lion King hollow, and it's not Alice Through the Looking Glass infuriating. So I guess take that for what you will. But yeah, like I said, not a glowing recommendation. Do not see this. My honest rating for Snow White, a weak 3 out of 5.
I look at you, and I just want to be the fairest of them all.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Hit that like or dislike button. All engagement is welcomed. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. And as always, have a great day, stay safe and healthy out there, and hope to see you soon.
Later than you think, so be cool. Just relax. So be cool. Face facts.